Cool, we're live with Bring Your Own Keys implementation for GitLab dedicated prototype.
Thanks, Ed. Hussain's been busy. I'm not sure if you all had a chance to review the agenda, but Hussain, you want to walk us through it briefly
Sure.
here? What we've been up to?
Absolutely. So I did a further test with some further tests with backup, particularly. S3 was pretty straightforward, but backups were pretty interesting in terms of offsite and onsite backups. And the way that we can encrypt and restore from encrypted backups, both on-site and off-site, and what will happen to the resources that are restored. So the findings, the total findings of what we found, what was discovered during these experiments are documented in an MR2, the blueprint, and not totally related to that MR, but it also sparked a discussion about the response time to the key revocation and how we should deal with it. So basically there are two, up until yesterday, there were two approaches. One, we should totally automatically revoke when the key is revoked and it is detected, we should start shutting down the instances. And the second was we shouldn't touch anything and keep the things going. But there is also Andrew also weighed in yesterday, and I think we have a middle ground to proceed. So this was open for discussion, so Josh probably has more to add to it.
No, I think it's accurate. I think we can iterate here on like the core foundation, right? We can get faster and better at how we detect and then take action. So that's a good thing, and we can and should do that. I'll do some customer validation in the next week or so, and see what customers are looking for. My gut feels we'll probably need automated shutdown in the near term to kind of meet their compliance needs.
I think we can do it simpler. Like, I think the manual process is the easiest to build by far, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we do that first.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think the question then is I just want to check in with to some degree on like our potential opportunities who are looking for this, on who they're looking for protection, like control. Well, they depended on us to take action before we actually lost access to their data, right? And so that might give them pause on checking the box from a compliance standpoint. So
it might, but like this is what we can offer now. Like we gotta reduce the scope and ship it faster.
Yep. No, I agree. It is something we can iterate on for sure, and it's something we should iterate on. So I agree there.
Yeah, I just want to add that from technical perspective, either way is completely doable. It's feasible. It's just we need to see how it sits in the product and how we can communicate it well with the customer. So this is not an engineering challenge. Next step, I was unblocked by a dedicated team. So I accessed material, the secret material that they had, and I managed to start the toolchain using the toolchain. But the part of the problem was that we further down I realized that we cannot really alias the cross-account keys. So we cannot create an alias in the tenant AWS account to a key that is located in another account, and this is blocked by AWS API. So this is not feasible. So we need to look at an alternative for referencing the keys across accounts. So the new POC was created for that, and I cherry picked some of the old POC.
Sorry for being not up to speed. What is this from across accounts? Do we need this?
Yeah, because we are using the customer key, which is located in a different account. And by default, we start using key aliases across the whole tenant. So we simply wanted to bring in another key and alias it in our tenant account and then use it in our tool chain with that alias. This is not doable. We need to directly, each resource that accesses the customer key has to access it directly by the ARN, not the alias that we define for it.
Okay, we can no longer use the aliases, so you gotta reprogram some stuff.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Not a big deal again, completely doable, but it changed the first POC, so we need to kind of redo it. We also took the opportunity to introduce a new deployment model, which I discussed with Josh before, and this is, let's call it bring your own key mode rather than just having a few keys for a specific resources. So the initial blueprint and the POC, with the initial blueprint and POC, you can mix and match between managed keys and customer keys. So for example, EBS can use a managed key by GitLab, and RDS can use a customer key. This doesn't pose any problem as long as we get to the, I mean, it's a kind of logical problem because it is still customer data. And when we get to the point that we want to bring also the backup, then it would be a problematic. So we either all bring your own key or not. So if you switch into bring your own key mode.
Let's document it and move on.
Yeah. So this is kind of implemented in the new POC. This new POC goes into this direction. And I added the support for RDS and EBS. But this is very recent. This is like out of the oven. And I think we have an access problem to the keys. So because the principle that we run the provisioning is not the, we might have some access problem here, or I might have missed something in the configuration. I hope for the latter, because if this is really an access problem, then we need to take a deeper look into this. So it is going for, it is progressing, but we are hitting like small unforeseen technical problems.
That fourth thing.
Okay.
That last thing you explained. I also don't know who the principal is.
Okay, so with the current setting of the instrumentor, I see that the resources cannot access the customer key, even though the access is granted to the account. So I am guessing that we are using a different account principle, like a service account, like an alias or role to provision resources, and that's part could be because of it. This is further investigation.
You give an authorization to access the key from the key side, but probably we're not requesting from that, but from something related to that. But it's
probably a role. Yeah. This I need to take a look into it. I don't have more data on it to like really hash it out.
Yeah, you gave access to Alice, but Alice is operating under her last name. Of Awesome, and it's like, well, Awesome is not on the list.
Could be like that. That would be a problem. I hope it's not.
Yep. Cool.
One last thing that is up for discussion, I think it's the key rotation, and I'm especially concerned with the key material that is managed by the customer. So customer managed keys, that the key material, the cryptographic material, is managed by customer. Because according to AWS documentation, if you rotate a key without changing the ARN, it keeps a version of the key, like the cryptographic material. So when you later use the resource that is encrypted with an older version, it still has that version, and it still uses the older key material to decrypt the resource.
Okay, well, if it's good enough for Amazon, it's good enough for our version. Yeah.
So we might have, the reason that I am saying this, because we might restrict the type of the key cryptographic material. If AWS doesn't do that, doesn't keep track of the key material that is managed by customer, we might say that this is not what we support at this point. And I don't know that yet.
Not sure I totally get it, but if it's good enough for Amazon, it's good enough for our prototype.
Yeah.
Like,
Hopefully it just
don't build
works.
something more complex than what Amazon shipped to users.
Yeah.
We absolutely don't want to do that.
Hopefully it works. And I think that like we use that today for the automatic key rotation and dedicated, and it has the same behavior. So I think unless we get something different with cross account, hopefully we don't. I think we should hopefully be all good.
Yeah,
and
please don't do anything different. Cool.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Next areas is, keep cranking on the POC, trying to, I think, fix the EBS and RDS challenges, test out the key rotation, make sure everything is good. And then, yeah, continue discussing if we need to, anything open on the replication. Does that sound about right, Hussein?
Yeah, absolutely. The POC is in progress. And if we have the POC, this is the first step that we can iterate on different scenarios, because it allows us to deploy faster and break things easier.
Okay, so I get A, I don't get B. I don't think it should be in scope.
I think B is good. If you can just force it once, right? You can just force key rotation, I think, and then that way we make sure it works. So I think otherwise the default's every year. And I imagine the reason we want to validate this is that we don't want to end up in a situation where it rotates automatically and then we're suddenly in real trouble. So we can do probably a quick test to make sure we rotate it, make sure EBS is still reading writing fine, and then we can move on with our lives.
Yeah.
Cool, makes sense. Thanks for the pushback. I don't get C either. Discussing, what do we need to discuss?
We actually already did it a bit.
So can we remove it from scope?
Yeah, of course.
When do you anticipate having this?
I was hoping for yesterday.
Okay, no, I think you're making a lot of progress. Don't be tough on you. Don't be tough on yourself.
But now, if I just resolve the access issue, I need to add backup and S3 to this mix as well.
Sure. Next meeting next week.
I hope so. Yeah, I'm aiming for that.
And I understand you can't promise. Hope is all we got. Can you bring a doc update in scope? Because right now we're putting it in a blueprint. Personally, I don't like blueprints. I think architecture should be part of our docs. But at least it should. I want what we can and can't do as part of our publicly facing docs under a big beta banner, and that's what I asked for last time. Now I see they're in infrastructure docs, which are not part of if I Google GitLab dedicated, I'm not be able to find it. So I don't like the location of what we're currently doing, and I think they're written more as a process rather than, hey, this is what we can do, this is what we can do, this is the status of what we're doing, of what we're able to do.
Okay. For the documentation, I need to raise this issue, escalate this issue with the dedicated team, because I don't know how we keep the public documentation for dedicated at the moment.
We don't have any
neither.
Today. Yeah.
But it's, if we Google GitLab dedicated, I found a docs page. This is what I get when I Google GitLab dedicated. Talks about this. So just add a paragraph here.
Or bring your own key.
Yeah. And it should say alpha, just a prototype right now. This is what we can and can do. And you shouldn't actually merge it. You should have a merge request so that other people can review it. So that I don't
have it yet. We're just in prototyping.
I think you're misunderstanding me. The merge request is to keep me out of trouble, because if you merge it and people see it and it's public and you did it, then you're in trouble, but I told you to do so, so now I'm in trouble. I don't want to be in trouble. But we're not going to wait with the merge request until this is public. The merge request will have text for the page that will say, this is an alpha. We're just prototyping this right now. We don't have it yet. So that we can merge that so that there's no holdup in merging it. Because merge conflicts are the worst.
Got it.
So instead of the status being implied by the merging and not merging, we're just going to explicitly note the status in the docs. Cool. So next time I expect a merge request that updates that page. And when do you anticipate to merge the code into dedicated?
I think for that, we probably need a user acceptance test environment. And that's the next issue that we need to discuss with dedicated team.
Okay, do you think you can have an MR to merge it into dedicated?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I intend to turn that POC MR and craft it into something that can be turned into like a ready MR for instrumenter. But for testing, user acceptance testing is, I think, the next barrier that we need to hit.
Great. So next time we'll have 2 MRs, one for the docs, one for the code. Who's going to do that user acceptance testing? Can you do that? Do you need somebody else to do it?
I need to. Let's see if no one, if there's no one else, I probably have to do that myself. But this requires more access to the dedicated infrastructure for in terms of provisioning the environment. This is an environment that we break.
Yep.
Not a usual user acceptance testing that we have an environment and we keep testing against it. This is an environment that we break and we have to destroy and recreate.
Sounds complex. Sounds also like quality is not involved yet. Normally I'd say like let's ask Mac, but I'm sure Mac even has people with access to this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll work on that one. It's a fair point. I think we're also working on better splitting out the production tokens. Like we now have a non-prod token account and things like that. So I'll take that one up with the team.
Thanks, Josh. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
I think we should make it a separate thing because we can have the MR and merging the code MR. Cool. Anything else?
I think that's it from me, Hussein.
That's all from my side.
Cool. Great work. See you next week.